Quantum of redemption. The acid rain fell in sheets across New Meridian Central Plaza, droplets sizzling against the force field advertisements that floated like ghostly billboards above the crowd. Dr. Thora Valdez watched from beneath the shadow of her hood, counting seconds in her head, a habit born from years of precision laboratory work. Her fingers traced the outline of the quantum stabilizer at her wrist, its faint blue glow hidden beneath her sleeve. 30 seconds to molecular alignment, the device whispered against her skin. The crowd swelled around her, hundreds gathering to witness the public spectacle. Justice, they called it. A reminder of humanity's power in the new galactic order. Thora called it barbarism dressed in political ceremony. On the central platform, Justice Administrator Hendricks adjusted his immaculate white uniform, looking more like a healthcare professional than an executioner. The rain didn't touch him, deflected by his personal shield while the masses got soaked. Citizens of New Meridian, his voice boomed through atmospheric amplifiers, today we witness the administration of justice against those who would threaten our sovereign cultural identity. Thora's mouth tightened to a thin line. The Temporal Oversight Committee had denied her appeals 3 times. No one would listen to reason when xenophobia provided such convenient political fuel. Guards led the prisoner onto the platform. Despite the restraints binding his wrists and the suppression collar around his neck, Nix carried himself with unmistakable dignity. His obsidian skin absorbed the harsh lighting, making the luminescent blue markings along his arms pulse with a gentle rhythm. All 4 of his eyes, deep violet and without pupils, surveyed the crowd without flinching. Nix, diplomatic envoy of the Celestial Concordat, Hendricks continued, you have been found guilty of espionage against Earth's quantum defense systems, a violation of Article 7 of the Post-Contact Treaty. A lie, Thora whispered to herself. She had reviewed Nix's research permits herself. His study of human cultural adaptation to space travel had been approved through all proper channels. That evidence against him had been manufactured, she was certain. 20 seconds, her device warned as quantum particles began realigning around her. The crowd jeered. Someone threw a synth bottle that splashed against the platform shields. Nix didn't react, his gaze fixed on some distant point beyond the horizon. For crimes against humanity's security, Hendricks declared, you are sentenced to molecular dispersal. The platform beneath Nix began to hum, emitters charging to break his body apart at the subatomic level, considered the humane method of execution in 2157. Thora closed her eyes, feeling the quantum field bending around her as her stabilizer reached full alignment. This was the moment. After this, there would be no going back to her respected position at the Quantum Physics Institute, no more comfortable apartment in the academic district, no more safe, predictable life. 10 seconds. The rain seemed to slow around her, droplets hanging suspended as she activated the field. Time wasn't actually slowing, she was simply stepping slightly sideways from normal spacetime, existing between moments. Her 5 years of secret research, all leading to this. Thora moved. To observers, she simply vanished from her position and reappeared on the platform in a blur of motion. The guards didn't have time to react as she slammed her palm against the control panel, disabling the dispersal field with an electromagnetic pulse from her device. What the? Hendricks reached for his security beacon. Thora's hand closed around Nix's arm, her fingers brushing against his cool skin. She felt the quantum field expand to encompass him, the particles of her stabilizer recognizing and incorporating his molecular structure. Now, she breathed, and activated the secondary protocol. The world blurred around them as they shifted, not through space but through probability, reappearing 50 meters away at the edge of the plaza. The crowd erupted in confusion. Alarm sirens wailed. Run, Thora gasped, pulling Nix toward the nearest alley. The quantum shift had drained her stabilizer, and even worse, she could feel the microscopic tears beginning in her own cellular structure. Each use of the technology degraded her body a little more. Nix followed without question, moving with surprising speed despite his restraints. You're the physicist, he said, his voice melodic despite the urgency. Dr. Valdez. You were at my cultural exchange presentation last month. Save the reunion for when we're not being hunted, Thora replied, ducking beneath a low-hanging fire escape. Her wrist device was blinking red, a warning sign. Hold still. She pressed her thumb against the restraint lock on his wrists, sending another targeted pulse that shorted the circuits. The cuffs fell away. The collar as well? Nix asked, rubbing his freed wrists. Different system. We'll need tools for that one. Security drones buzzed overhead, their scanning beams sweeping the streets. Thora pulled Nix into the shadow of a ventilation unit just as a beam passed where they'd been standing. Why did you do this? Nix's 4 eyes blinked in unison, studying her with undisguised curiosity. You've sacrificed everything. Thora ran a diagnostic on her stabilizer, buying time before answering. Because you're innocent, and I had the means to act. She looked up at him. And because I know who framed you. Nix went very still. Who? The same person who stole my research 3 years ago. Director Ryland Pierce. The name hung between them like a cloud of toxic gas. Pierce, the celebrated head of Earth's defense initiative, the man credited with developing the quantum shield network that protected Earth's major cities. Your research, Nix said slowly, understanding dawning across his features. The quantum displacement technology. He took it. Thora nodded grimly. And weaponized it. The very technology one designed for medical transport, to move patients instantly to treatment facilities, he turned into a military application. When I threatened to expose him, he discredited me academically. Her laugh was bitter. But he couldn't replicate my stabilizer designs. That's what he's been after all along. A drone hovered closer, its sensors pinging nearby heat signatures. Thora checked her device, not ready for another jump. We need to keep moving, she whispered. My lab isn't far from here. I have equipment there that can remove your collar and enough supplies to get us off-planet. Off-planet? Nix's markings pulsed faster. To where? The Celestial Concordat outpost on Europa. Your people need to know what's happening. Pierce is manufacturing a conflict between our species. The question is why. They slipped from shadow to shadow, evading the increasing security presence. When they reached the university district, Thora led them through maintenance tunnels she'd mapped years ago, escape routes she'd hoped never to use. Her laboratory, once her sanctuary, looked small and abandoned in the dim emergency lighting. Thora quickly gathered essential equipment while Nix examined the quantum equations still scrawled across her whiteboards. Your mathematics, it's beautiful, he said quietly. You've discovered principles my people have only theorized. Fat lot of good it's done me, Thora muttered, packing quantum cells into a portable case. She paused, seeing her reflection in a darkened monitor, pale skin, dark circles under her eyes, and something new, a faint blue luminescence visible just beneath her skin, tracking along her veins. The cellular degradation was accelerating. Nix approached, concern evident in his expression. You're deteriorating. Side effect of the technology. Thora shrugged, trying to seem nonchalant. Each quantum shift damages organic tissue. I've been working on a solution, but you haven't found one. Nix reached out, his 4-fingered hand hovering above her arm where the blue light pulsed. How many more jumps can you survive? Theoretically? 3, maybe 4. She turned away, focusing on gathering tools for his collar. Practically speaking, we won't need that many. Once we reach Europa, your scientists can help stabilize the process. It wasn't entirely a lie. The Concordat's understanding of quantum mechanics was different from Earth's, complementary in ways that might solve her degradation problem. If she lived long enough to reach them. The collar released with a soft click, falling into Nix's waiting hands. He set it carefully on the workbench, then fixed all four eyes on Thora. "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten," he said formally. "When my people learn of this, they will." The laboratory door exploded inward, cutting off his words. Armed security forces poured through the opening, weapons raised. "Dr. Thora Valdez," came a familiar voice as the dust settled. Director Ryland Pierce stepped through the debris, immaculate in his military uniform. "I'm disappointed. All that brilliant potential, wasted on alien sympathies. Better that than building weapons for paranoid bureaucrats," Thora spat, positioning herself between the soldiers and Nix. Pierce smiled thinly. "Your quantum stabilizer, Doctor. Hand it over, and perhaps we can discuss reduced sentences for you both." "Like the reduced sentence you gave Ambassador Nix?" Thora's fingers moved discreetly over her wrist device, initiating the emergency protocol. The quantum cells in her pack began to hum. "No thanks. You won't escape," Pierce said, motioning for his soldiers to advance. "That little device of yours needs time to recharge between jumps. We've been monitoring your energy signature since the plaza. You're trapped." Thora smiled, feeling the quantum field building around her and Nix. "You always did underestimate me, Ryland." The air shimmered as the quantum displacement engaged, not from her wrist device but from the pack at her feet. The last thing she saw before reality blurred was Pierce's face contorting in rage. They rematerialized on a maintenance platform overlooking the city's spaceport. Thora collapsed immediately, blood trickling from her nose as blue light coursed visibly beneath her skin. "Thora!" Nix caught her before she hit the ground. "What have you done?" "Improvised," she gasped, wiping blood from her upper lip. "The pack wasn't fully calibrated. Rough jump." "You said 3 or 4 more jumps," Nix reminded her, his voice tight with concern. Thora managed a weak smile. "I lied. That was probably my last safe one." She struggled to her feet, leaning heavily against him. "But it got us here, and that's what matters. There's a ship, Private Transport Bay 7. Automated systems, pre-programmed for Europa. And you?" She met his gaze steadily. "I'm still coming. Just might need to sleep most of the way while my cells try to restabilize." In the distance, alarms began to sound as the city's systems registered their quantum signature. They had minutes at most before security forces converged on the spaceport. "One last run," Thora said, straightening despite the pain radiating through her body. The blue light beneath her skin pulsed in time with her heartbeat, growing brighter. "Think you can keep up with a quantum physicist on the edge of molecular collapse?" Nix's markings flashed in what might have been amusement. "I believe I can manage, Doctor." Together they moved toward the spaceport, 2 fugitives, 1 human, 1 alien, united by a conspiracy neither fully understood yet, but determined to uncover. Behind them, the rain continued to fall on New Meridian, washing away the few physical traces of their passage but not the impact of their actions, rippling outward like quantum waves, changing everything in their path. Echoes of tomorrow. The stolen shuttle shuddered as it broke through New Meridian's upper atmosphere, streaking toward the cold emptiness of space. In the main cabin, Nix worked quickly to stabilize the life support systems while keeping an eye on Thora, who lay unconscious on the medcot, her body occasionally flickering as if threatening to phase out of existence. The blue luminescence beneath her skin had spread, tracing intricate patterns across her face like a circuit diagram. Her breathing came in shallow gasps, each intake of air causing her form to shimmer slightly at the edges. "Hold on, Thora," Nix murmured, administering another dose of the quantum stabilizer he'd synthesized from her notes. "Your sacrifice will not be in vain." 3 days into their journey to Europa, Thora finally regained consciousness. Her eyes opened slowly, now glowing with the same ethereal blue as the veins beneath her skin. "Did we make it?" Her voice sounded strange, harmonics layering beneath her normal tones as if she were speaking from multiple points in spacetime simultaneously. We evaded Earth's security vessels, Nix confirmed, helping her to sit up. But there's a problem. Director Pierce has issued a system-wide alert. He's claiming you've kidnapped me and stolen classified technology. Europa's orbital defenses have been instructed to shoot us down on approach. Thora laughed, the sound rippling strangely. Of course he did. She looked down at her hands, watching as they briefly phased out of alignment with reality before solidifying again. How bad is it? Nix hesitated. Your cellular structure is destabilizing. The quantum displacement has altered your fundamental atomic bonds. You're shifting between states of existence. Dying, you mean, Thora said matter-of-factly. How long? Without intervention? Perhaps 2 days before complete molecular collapse. She nodded, surprisingly calm. Then we don't have time to reach Europa. We need to expose Pierce now, before I disperse. She attempted to stand, wavering slightly. Help me to the communications array. What are you planning? Pierce wants war, Thora explained, her image occasionally blurring as she moved. He's been sabotaging diplomatic relations, manufacturing evidence against the Concordat. But he needs justification, public support. My guess? He'll stage an attack, blame your people. Nick supported her weight as they made their way to the shuttle's compact bridge. Why? What purpose would conflict serve? Control, Thora said simply, settling into the pilot's seat. Crisis consolidates power. And there's something else. She tapped commands into the console, her fingers occasionally passing through the solid surface. Pierce's quantum weapons program. He's developed something based on my research, something big. The view screen activated, displaying a classified defense schematic that Thora had extracted from her laboratory database before their escape. At its center was a massive orbital platform. The quantum nullifier, she explained. Designed to create a localized collapse of quantum stability across an entire planetary system. It would render all technology useless, all organic life unstable at the molecular level. Nick stared at the schematic in horror. This would violate every interspecies treaty in existence. Which is why he needs a war to justify its deployment. Thora's form flickered violently, causing her to gasp in pain. When she stabilized, more of her body glowed with that eerie blue light. We need to get back to Earth. The evidence is there, in Pierce's secure facility beneath the Defense Ministry. Earth? Nix's markings pulsed with alarm. That's suicide. Every security force on the planet is looking for us. Thora smiled grimly. They're looking for a human woman and an alien diplomat. But I'm not exactly human anymore, am I? She held up her hand, allowing it to phase partially out of conventional reality. And they'll be watching the spaceports, not the quantum fluctuations in the upper atmosphere. Understanding dawned in Nix's 4 eyes. You're going to jump us directly into the facility. The biggest jump yet, she confirmed. But I'll need to modify the stabilizer first. And, she hesitated, meeting his gaze directly, I'll need to channel the jump through my own body. The device won't be powerful enough on its own. That will kill you, Nick said quietly. I'm already dying. Thora's voice was steady. This way, it means something. 12 hours later, as Earth grew larger in their view screen, Thora completed the final modifications to her quantum stabilizer. The device now interfaced directly with her altered biology, lines of blue energy flowing between her skin and the mechanical components. The Defense Ministry has 17 subsurface levels, she explained, bringing up building schematics on the console. Pierce's private laboratory is on level 16. That's where we'll find proof of his plans, and the frame up against you. Nick studied the plans. These security systems won't detect us if we phase in properly. Thora attached the modified stabilizer to her chest rather than her wrist. Traditional sensors can't track quantum displacement. And the guards? We avoid them. This is recon, not confrontation. As they prepared for the approach, orbital defense satellites began tracking their vessel. Warning signals flashed across the console. They've spotted us, Nix reported. Weapons locking on. Thora took a deep breath, her entire body now pulsing with quantum energy. Then we jump now. She grasped Nix's hand, her fingers partially phasing through his. Trust me. The stabilizer hummed to life, drawing power not just from its cells but from Thora's unstable molecular structure. Pain lanced through her as the quantum field expanded, enveloping them both. The shuttle around them began to fade as reality shifted. To external observers, the small vessel simply disappeared from sensors moments before the defense satellites fired, their energy weapons hitting nothing but empty space. Inside the quantum field, Thora and Nix existed between moments, between possibilities. Through sheer will, Thora guided their descent, focusing on the coordinates of Pierce's laboratory. They materialized in a sterile white room filled with advanced technology. Display screens lined the walls, many showing surveillance footage of various alien diplomatic missions. In the center stood a holographic projection of the quantum nullifier, slowly rotating in three-dimensional space. Thora collapsed immediately, her body convulsing as quantum energy surged uncontrollably through her cells. Nix caught her, lowering her gently to the floor. Find the evidence, she gasped, blue light now pouring from her eyes and mouth. Hurry. Nix moved quickly through the laboratory, accessing computer terminals with the security codes Thora had provided. Within minutes, he had located the files, detailed plans for false flag operations against human colonies, fabricated evidence against multiple alien diplomats, and technical specifications for the nullifier weapon. I have it, he told her, transferring the data to a secure crystal. Everything we need to expose him. Thora tried to respond, but her voice had become a distorted quantum echo. Her body was more light than substance now, barely maintaining cohesion. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. The laboratory door slid open, and Director Pierce entered, flanked by armed guards. Fascinating, Pierce said, observing Thora's transformed state without surprise. Your quantum integration has progressed even further than our models predicted. He turned to Nix. And you brought the alien right to me. How convenient. You won't get away with this, Nix said, clutching the data crystal. We know everything about your plans, your false accusations. Pierce smiled coldly. And who will believe you? A fugitive alien and a woman who's barely human anymore? He gestured to Thora's glowing form. Dr. Valdez's condition is most unfortunate, a tragic result of alien technology corrupting her brilliant mind. Thora struggled to her knees, quantum energy crackling around her. You can't rewrite this, she managed, each word carrying multiple harmonic echoes. I already have, Pierce replied, removing a small device from his pocket. The official record shows that you, Dr. Valdez, were abducted and experimented on by Concordat agents, driving you insane. I tried to save you, but alas, he activated the device, which emitted a targeted pulse toward Thora. The damage was too severe. The pulse struck her destabilized form, causing her to cry out as her molecular structure began to collapse further. Nix lunged toward Pierce but was caught by the guards, who forced him to his knees. Your execution will be public, Pierce told Nix. The final proof of the Concordat's treachery. By this time tomorrow, Earth will be unified in its call for war. Through her agony, Thora's mind raced. The pulse Pierce had used, it was based on her own research, designed to accelerate quantum destabilization. But that meant. With her last coherent thought, she reached out with her consciousness, not fighting the destabilization but embracing it. If she couldn't maintain her physical form, perhaps she could become something else entirely. Nix, she whispered, her voice now sounding from everywhere at once. Close your eyes. The quantum energy that had been consuming her suddenly expanded outward in a blinding flash. Pierce and his guard staggered back, shielding their faces. In that moment, Nyx broke free, diving for the nearest console. When the light faded, Thora's physical form was gone. In its place, a swirling vortex of blue energy hovered, occasionally coalescing into something resembling a human shape before dispersing again. Impossible, Pierce breathed. The quantum vortex that had been Thora moved with purpose, flowing into the laboratory's computer systems. Every screen in the room activated at once, displaying the evidence of Pierce's conspiracy. The same information began transmitting to every connected device in the Defense Ministry, then spreading outward across government networks, news channels, and public communication systems. Pierce lunged for the main terminal, trying desperately to stop the transmission. "Shut it down," he shouted to his guards. "Lock down the entire system." But it was too late. What remained of Thora Valdez had integrated with the quantum field that underlay all digital systems, becoming a conscious wave function that could not be contained. Her voice echoed from every speaker, "The truth cannot be erased. I am the witness that cannot be silenced." Security forces burst into the laboratory, but these weren't Pierce's men. They wore the insignia of global oversight, the one organization with authority over the Defense Ministry itself. "Director Pierce," their commander announced, "you are under arrest for conspiracy, attempted genocide, and violations of interspecies treaties." As Pierce was led away in restraints, the quantum vortex coalesced once more beside Nyx, almost taking Thora's shape before dispersing again. "Did you know this would happen?" Nyx asked softly. The energy pulsed in what might have been acknowledgement. "Not certain," Thora's voice came, fragmented but recognizable. "But suspected. Quantum consciousness. Theoretical possibility. Can you return to physical form?" "No." The answer was simple, final. "I am becoming something new. Existing everywhere and nowhere." Guards approached Nyx respectfully. "Sir, representatives from the Celestial Concordat have arrived in orbit. They're requesting your presence." Nyx nodded but didn't move immediately, his attention still fixed on the swirling energy. "What will you do now?" he asked Thora. The vortex expanded slightly, tendrils of blue light reaching toward the ceiling before retracting. "Watch. Learn. Ensure this never happens again." There was a pause, then, "I will remain." "As what?" "Guardian," came the reply, stronger now, as if Thora were growing more comfortable with her new existence. "Between worlds. Between possibilities." Nyx bowed his head in understanding. "Your sacrifice will be honored among my people for generations." As he turned to leave, the quantum energy briefly took Thora's form once more, a glowing blue silhouette reaching out to touch his shoulder. Though he felt nothing physical, a sense of peace washed over him. "Not sacrifice," her voice whispered, now sounding as if it came from a great distance. "Evolution." 1 year later, a new treaty was signed between Earth and the Celestial Concordat. The ceremony took place in New Meridian Central Plaza, the same location where Nyx had once faced execution. Now it was decorated with symbols of both cultures, a celebration of understanding rather than fear. Ambassador Nyx, officially exonerated and restored to his position, stood at the center of the platform as the human and alien representatives finalized the historic agreement. In his formal address, he spoke of bridges between worlds, of understanding transcending difference. Few noticed the subtle blue shimmer that occasionally rippled through the plaza's electronic systems, or the way the atmospheric light seemed to pulse in perfect harmony with Nyx's words. But he noticed, and smiled. In the quantum fields that underlay reality, in the spaces between molecules and the corridors between possibilities, Dr. Thora Valdez continued her work, no longer bound by physical form but expanded beyond it, a guardian of the peace her sacrifice had helped create. And sometimes, when conditions were just right, those with the sensitivity to perceive it might catch a glimpse of a woman formed of blue light, walking between worlds with the stride of someone who had found her true purpose at last.